Hello, everyone. Welcome to our session. First thing first, let me introduce myself. My name is Aida. I am actually a NAV partner, like many of you here. I am a solution architect for a very famous fashion company called Fabricam. And I think many of you know that amazing company. My team recently has been working on to build a repeatable solution for fashion companies. Our solution is multi-tenant, and we are planning to sell it in volume as a SaaS offering. I was in direction in October, and first time NAV 2016 was announced. With the announcement of NAV 2016, NAV Managed Service was also launched. It was presented as platform as a service offering for partners with SaaS solutions. It was exactly like my solution. Of course, I was very interested. I went to the workshop, and I really liked what I see. But you know, I didn't get a chance to have a deep dive. So I meet this guy, Christian. He is actually from Microsoft and from the team that has built this service. And then he promised me that he can have a session with me and make me to understand the functionality of managed service much better, and also to understand how it has been built in the backend. So let me walk you through my experience. Fantastic. So, Christian, I'm going to actually go through the experience, and then please help me if I miss any step.
Of course.
So, I am logged in to NAV Management Portal. This is a self-service portal for managing the service, and also for deploying my solution in the cloud. To deploy my solution in the cloud, you might think I need few components. The first thing I need is a platform. So let me go to the platform section. I can see there is a list of platforms here that Microsoft releases every month as cumulative updates, and they make it available in the portal for me to pick up and use it for deploying my solution. So what would be the next step? The next step, I need to kind of define my application for the service and also upload it to the cloud. So let me go to the application section. As I told you, I have two flavors of my fashion solution: Fabricam Fashion Accessories and Fabricam Fashion Apparel. I have already defined this application in the service and give it some basic settings. So let me go to one of those to see what are those settings. I have given it a name, Fabricam Fashion Apparel, a short description. I have also defined my branding elements. So I have given it a display name. This display name is what my customers see when they log into my solution. I have also uploaded the images with my logo. Then it can be used for login image and for splash screen images. Therefore, you know, I can kind of present my solution with my branding. I have also defined the links to the legal content and the privacy content that I have. I have also given some links to the feedback page and the community page and login page, so my customers can stay in touch with me when they are interacting with my solution. Some more things. Of course, I need to upload my license here that I have done. Also, I would like to run my solution with Office 365 authentication. Therefore, I could actually go and simply click on register for Office 365 authentication here, and my solution was registered for Office 365. Fantastic. So you can see I have all the basic elements here to define my application. So let's see what was the next step. Now I need to upload my application to the cloud. For that, I need to add an application version. So let's go and see what does that really mean. So now I'm creating an application version. I need to give it a small name, some name. I use some of the codings that normally I use for versioning my application. I can define some description. But here, actually, it comes all the components that build my application. So I need to upload my business logic. That is my fashion solution that I want to sell it as a SaaS offering. I need to also upload my tenant data. This is a template that contains the initial data for my customer to get it started. And if I have some custom help content, I need to upload that as well. So actually, let's think about this. All I need is the stuff that is the components that is my intellectual property. And I upload them right here. So if I want to upload them now, oh, let me see. I was just thinking, all these components, actually, there's nothing new about this. These are the components that on-prem I was also knew how to build them, and I was creating them and making my solution with. But there was a slight difference, if I remember correctly. So let me demonstrate for you. So when I want to upload these components, the service actually works with them in a little bit different way. It works with them as a backpack format. The backpack format is a standard Azure SQL format that is actually also supported with Azure SQL tools on-prem as well, and it was really, really easy to create. Basically, all I needed to do is to go to my SQL management studio and then upload my database as a backpack format. Basically, 2 clicks. That was the only difference. But I'm not going to upload them now because it will take a while. So I have already uploaded my application version. Let's go and look at them. And you can see here, every time, actually, I'm going to, extend my application with some new features and with some hot fixes. Then I can create a version and upload it to the portal. So basically, I am actually using as portal for managing the full life cycle of my application. I can just build new stuff, upload it to the portal, and then I can choose when I want to pick them up and at what point of time I want to push it to my customers. So, Christian, I have uploaded everything now to the cloud. And basically, I have my components up there. But when we say upload stuff into the cloud, what does that really mean?
Yes, let me explain you. But first, let me say you did everything exactly right.
Good.
But I would like to show what actually happens on the back end when you did the things you did. So you were on this page, and you selected 2 of your most important assets, your application database in a backpack format, and a tenant template database also in a backpack format. And then you clicked upload. But where was it uploaded to? Well, in the company I work for, which is Microsoft, we use Azure for our services. And the NAV Managed Service for Partners also lives in Azure. And when I say lives in Azure, I mean it lives entirely in Azure. So to have a place for your files, we create a storage account just for you. And so when you clicked upload, we simply transferred the files to that storage account and stored them there as blobs. So you can think of this as a file share, basically, that we maintain for your files in the cloud. You can't access it, but you can use it via the portal. When they've been uploaded, you can also download them again in case you ever want to bring them back to your developer machine for anything. I hope this makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me wrap up. Microsoft has the platform, uploaded the platform. I uploaded my application version, which was my tenant database and my tenant template. And basically now I have all the components required for me to deploy my solution to the cloud, right?
That's right.
So to do that, I need to create an application service. So let me go to the application services list and spin up a new application service. Here, I need to choose which application I want actually to deploy to the cloud. I want to choose fashion apparel for now, one of my flavors. And now I am presented with the versions that I have uploaded. So I'm going to choose the initial version. And then I end up in the application service page. Basically here, I have all the elements for configuring my service. But if you notice around here, you can see that everything is predefined. Basically, I just need to define a name for my application service. Let me try to give it a specific name, because that is the way that we have the naming convention in my company. Great. So I give it this specific name, App Server 1, and then actually I'm now ready to provision a tenant. As simple as that. Everything ready. But I want to discuss before that some of the more options that I have here. For this service, I can select from two types, production and sandbox. I use production services if I want to run my production tenants. And I use my sandbox if I'm using my service for troubleshooting and for testing. I can also choose from which Azure location I want to deploy my solution to. Actually, I have a list of Azure locations available for me to choose from. Of course, now we are in Belgium, so I'm going to choose West Europe. That probably makes sense. And then I can also define different type of authentication. I can choose between username and password authentication or Office 365 authentication. In the next tab, I can define how I want to scale my service. Do I want to have a large scale service or a small scale service? I can also define my custom domain. Then I can have a good-looking tenant URLs for my customer with my domain in it. I also can, upload my own certificate, and that is what is really recommended by Microsoft when I'm deploying the production tenant. Then it is completely secure, the connection that I have between my customer tenant and NAV. But of course, I can leave this checkbox here. If I want to have production or test services, then the service will generate a certificate for me. And the last not least, I can also choose if I want to enable web services on this service just by simply clicking Enable Web Services. So now that I have configured my application service, all I need to do is kick off the provisioning. And of course, it asks me, do you want to provision a service? Yes. And you can see instantly, my status is changing to provision. And I believe, Christian, this is going to take a while, but I can't wait for it, actually, because at the moment this is running, I'm going to log into it.
Well, almost, because what you have created is a service. You will end up with a full NAV installation, but you don't have any tenants or users yet, so you won't be able to log in yet.
Can you show me what I have right now? I'm a bit puzzled here.
Absolutely. So I will return to my slides and show you what we have. So You were on this page and specified all the details for your service, for example, the name, the data center you want to deploy to, and everything else. And then you click provision. So what happens on the back end? Well, the first thing we do is we create a database server, an Azure SQL database server. Since you chose West Europe, that's where we will create the database server. This takes only a few seconds. And after that, we can start to create databases. So we will immediately create 2 databases. The first one will contain your application database. That contains your tables and code units and all that. And we will create it based on the backpack file that you uploaded before. The second database we will create immediately is the tenant template database. And we will also create that based on the backpack file you uploaded before. So now we have 2 databases, but NAV is more than databases. We also need to install NAV somewhere. So we will create an Azure VM in the same region, namely West Europe. Once we have created the VM, we will install all the well-known NAV components. So we will install the NST and configure it to talk to the application database. We will install the web client. We will install a website that hosts Click Once, so your end customers can easily run the Windows client as well. And finally, we will install the help server with either our default help content or the help content that you can upload. The last thing we do is open some firewall ports so your end users can actually connect to these services. So as you can see, with this, we have a full NAV installation, but we don't have any tenants or users yet.
Okay, let me try to do that. Can you switch? Thank you. You can see I have a beautiful application service here, running in production, ready for me to add tenants. So I simply go to the Actions menu and add a tenant. Of course, I should give a name to this tenant to honor of great event. I should specify a country where my customer is located at. Also, just to make sense. And basically, that is it. My tenant is ready to be provisioned. As simple as that. Of course, you mentioned that I need to add users. So, let me start to add myself as a partner user. And of course, I will add my email. Great. And I make myself a partner user. But actually, I am in the onboarding field. I really want to onboard somebody from the audience as my first customer. Let me look around to find someone. This guy, I know him a little bit. Hi, Waldo, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Do you want to be the first customer onboarded on managed service?
Absolutely, I'm all into fashion.
Especially in the NAV TechDays, of course. You know, we have many customers already onboarded, as Microsoft has told us in direction. Okay, can I have your email?
Yes, you can.
Let me see, maybe I have your email, actually. I have your card from our MVP dinner last night. I can try. So you have no objection? Can I add you? Everybody can see your email?
Yeah, sure.
Fine. Good. Guys, this is Waldo.
It is completely by surprise.
Okay, username, of course, Waldo. We give it also a real name. And a contact email. Great. Now I am really, really ready to provision a tenant.
Maybe you want to change the name of the tenant?
You are right. You know, Waldo put himself here up there. Maybe we should honor him. No offense, Waldo. Okay. Let's provision Waldo's fashion and see how it will go. Yes, of course I want to provision. And of course now it is taking a while to kick off the provisioning. We hope for the best. It really depends on the network. Great. So the status change from draft to provisioning. This will take not so much, actually, a minute or two. But then, let me go to another tenant that I have, and it is already running, and explain to you some of more advanced options that I have on the tenant card. So you can see, except from what you saw, I have this tenant configured on an application service with a custom domain. So here, I have the opportunity to define a subdomain prefix to specify the tenant URL. And as you can see, because this is already provisioned, it has picked up this subdomain prefix, and it looks quite nice. So it has my domain in it, and it has the specific name of the shop of my customer. I also have some more advanced options. If I if I enable allow application database rights, that means I can let my tenant to actually be able to go and modify the application database. That can be quite useful if I want to change the permission sets or configure web services or something like that. But of course, you can imagine that this is not something that we advise you do if you have a customer tenant. That is like, it can be a nightmare. It is very good if you have a partner tenant for maintenance. So you can configure things, or if there is a permission set that you need to go and change or do a small bug fix, then you can enable that option. There is also a table connection name here. Basically, if I just add a string, give it a name, then I kind of register this connection. And you know what happens? This tenant will be acting as a master tenant, and other tenants can connect to it and read the data from it. This is actually leveraging one of the very powerful features of NAV 2016, external SQL tables. And I already heard that we have some of great partners having some session about how to leverage that features. If you want to know about it more, just please refer to MSDN. It is quite powerful. So now that's it. Let's come back to our tenant list and see what happened to Waldo's fashion. Let me refresh. I can see Waldo's fashion is already still provisioning. So we need to wait maybe a few seconds more. But let me actually, until this is provisioning, the network is a little bit slow here. Until this is provisioning, I explain to you something. So what will really happen when the tenant gets provisioned? When it gets provisioned, because I select that great option that send a welcome mail, then my customers, that would be also your customers, will receive a welcome mail with the username and password to log in to the tenant. And that is the way that you are going to onboard the partners. Wow, great. So I can see the Waldo's fashion is active. And I suspect, because I was a partner, user here, I have received a mail. And Waldo, what about you? Did you get a mail?
I get a mail.
You got a mail. Can you log into your tenant?
You got it now.
Fantastic. I also got a mail, see? Wow. Can I see again before I experience that? Yeah, you are also using our beautiful tablet client actually on Surface. So you can see that your customer will receive such an email. Then I also have access, they also can have access to the Windows client actually by clicking through the click once here. So let me try this. Should we try?
It's up to you.
We already see the, the tenant on, I guess I need to try it. It will take a while. So instead of me logging to the tenant, great. So actually, Christian, how long it took? It took me less than an hour to provision my solution in the cloud. And it took me less than 2-3 minutes to provision a tenant. So while I'm logging in, can you explain to me how all this magic happened?
Of course. So here I have shown more or less what we had before. So we had a VM with NAV installed on it, and we had the two databases. And then Aida specified the details for her new tenant, Waldo Fashion, and click provision. So what happens at that point? Well, a tenant needs a separate database. So the first thing we do is create a copy of the tenant template database for this new tenant. This is a pure database operation that doesn't involve NAV at all. But once we have the database, we can simply mount it on NAV. So now the application database has a record of this database. And at this point, the tenant is actually fully functional. The only thing we need to do is create the users that Aida requested. So we do that as well. These users become regular NAV users. You can also create them in the application like you're used to. And if you do that, we will synchronize them back into the management portal. Because we want to always give you an accurate list of the users in the management portal. And when you're in the management portal, you can also make changes, for example, reset a password or disable a user. And it's interesting you mentioned the external table connection before, because that's a feature we use to enable this. Since we want to show the data that lives in another database, namely the tenant database, Waldo Fashion, inside our portal, we create a direct connection to that database and read the users out just in time and then show them in this list. So it's quite a powerful feature that we have used several times, and maybe you have ideas for how to use it too. Anyway, with the users created, you have a fully functional tenant and users can log in.
Fantastic. Actually, I have few concerns because so far what I have seen was really great, and I have few questions. Let me start with the first one that come into my mind. I think many of you see the great demo on extensions that Thomas showed in the keynote, and I have already actually used extensions on-prem. So I hope in future you are going to support extension in the service because it is very specifically built for the multi-tenant solution.
Yes, but we actually already support it in this service, and you can try for yourself. Just go to a tenant and manage your extensions from there.
Okay. Let me actually try that. Let me go to one of my tenants. I think this one that I uploaded my database, I had some extension. So yes, that's right. I have a manage extension feature. Let me see. Wow. wow, that is very easy. Basically, I easily can install and uninstall
right.
extension on my tenants. Great. You know, I have few other concerns, to be honest. One of my concerns is, you know, all this stuff is running on the cloud, right? So what about my data? Is my data really safe?
Your data is very safe, and we have an automatic backup system that takes care of all of this. And actually, you can even go back in time. Let's say you want the data as it was when the conference started this morning. You can do that. Just go to your tenant and click the point-in-time restore button.
I can't believe you.
Well, it's true. It's almost like a time machine.
This
Go
seems
ahead.
really like a time machine. Okay, let me try. Let me go to, where should I go actually? I should go to point-in-time restore here, great. And let me see if I can figure this out. Wow, I have a fully fledged calendar here. So I can just get back in time. Like, can I get back to last year NAV TechDays?
Well, it's not really a time machine, right? So you can only go back to when your tenant was created, and you can't go back more than 14 days.
Okay, but still, you know, it's quite impressive. So actually, this French fashion shop, it's my French customers, and they called me yesterday, and they told me that they have been running their daily jobs, and one of those jobs screwed their data, and they were asking me to undo it. You know, I don't have that many options here. Everything is in your guys' hand. So maybe I can use this feature for that.
Yeah, maybe. When did they run the jobs?
They run their jobs, I think, at noon every day at 12.
Okay.
That is the daily schedule.
So why don't you roll your database back to 1150?
Okay, let me try. So now we are in November. So I go to yesterday, and I try 1150. Even with 1130, I'm going to be happy. And then now what should I do? Just press OK here?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I would like to get back point in time because they are not functional anyway. Let me see what happens here. Okay, the status changed from active to provisioning. So it is provisioning based on the data from...
That's right. As
Wow.
of 1150 yesterday. But I can explain you how it works on the back end.
Okay, please go ahead.
So it is actually Azure SQL that is making this possible for us. So you wanted the data as it was at 1150 yesterday for your tenant database, in this case, Apparel Shop 4. So how can Azure SQL give that to you? But to answer that question, we need to take a closer look at Azure SQL's automatic backup system. So Azure SQL actually takes frequent backups of your databases. So it keeps some storage that you can't see, but it keeps that storage for your database backups. So it takes different kinds of backups. It takes a full backup every week. It takes incremental backups 2 times every day. And then it takes backups of all your transaction logs. So you can see with this information, Azure SQL actually has all the information required to recreate your data at any point in time. So you wanted the data as it was at 1150 yesterday.
Yes.
So what Azure SQL would do in that case is find the most recent full backup before that time, find the most recent incremental backup before that time and apply that on top, and then find all the transactions from that time until 1150, and then replay those transactions. And the end result is you have an exact copy of your database as it was at that time. I think that's a pretty amazing feature. And you know what the best part is? Azure SQL does this for you automatically. You don't even have to enable it, and it's free. So how do we use this cool Azure SQL feature in the NAV managed service? Well, we basically just add a little bit of user friendliness on top of it. So we created this little page. You specified a time. We tell Azure SQL, please create a database for me from that time, which it does based on the backups. Then I dismount the old database and mount the new one. And now you have it. You have a tenant that is running on that old data.
Great, but actually something grabbed my attention. You said you specified the time. I was lucky with my French partner because they are running these jobs every day at 12. But what if they didn't know? They knew that something screwed up yesterday, but they didn't know exactly at what point of time.
Right. In that case, you may have noticed that next to the point-in-time restore button, there was a point-in-time copy button. And the difference is that the point-in-time copy creates a database, just like we illustrated, but it doesn't delete the old database. Instead, it creates a new tenant with that new database. So you actually end up with 2 tenants. And then you can log into your second tenant and explore whether the data is okay.
Okay, that sounds right. So I can get back to different point of time, create these copies of my databases, and then try to see if the job started at that time, and based on that, specify what was the time, and then do a full point-in-time restore to that time and get my tenants back online.
That's right.
That makes sense. But you know, I still have some concerns. Because I read a lot about all these Azure SQL outages. It kind of freaks me out. What about that? What should I do about that? Like how we can address that concern?
Yes, so there are different types of outages. It can be a single database server that goes down, or it can be an entire service, in this case Azure SQL, that goes down. Or it can be a whole data center that goes down, right? But don't worry, in all these cases, we have you covered. And let me explain how we do that. So, as before, we have Azure SQL Server and a database. And we have the backups that are stored in storage. So what we didn't talk about was that this is placed in West Europe, which is in Amsterdam. And let's imagine the worst case scenario now. A natural disaster wipes out Amsterdam and the data center, and there's no way we will get our data back from there. So what Azure has is the concept of mirror regions. So West Europe has a mirror region, which is North Europe, and vice versa. So these 2 data centers help each other create robustness against any regional outage. So what Azure SQL does is, it takes those backups that you created that we talked about, and it copies them to the other region. It does this continuously. So it typically copies them, or it has copied them, within 10 minutes of a change, right? So now you can see how it works. Basically, we're taking backups of your backups in a different region. And since this is doing that on the fly, it's not instant. It can take up to 1 hour, although it is typically really fast. It can take up to 1 hour before it has copied it. And then you know it also. If the worst case scenario happens, you risk losing up to 1 hour of data, which I think is a fair guarantee because it is an extreme situation. And as with the other slide, all of this is completely automatic by Azure SQL, and it's free.
Okay, this is actually pretty much amazing stuff that we are talking about. But you know what? I don't call myself a dinosaur, like one of our great MVPs called himself. I'm sorry, Mark. But you know, I really like to run my business on the cloud, but I'm a little bit older school Christian. Like, you know, my data, my customer data on the cloud, I really want to get hold of them, to be able to control them.
We have an option for you as well as a dinosaur, but it's not a feature for dinosaurs only. It's actually quite a useful feature. It allows you to download your data at any time you like. But you can try it out. Go to your tenant and click the tenant data files.
I really would like to do that. Oh, good, because I had a network issue that I couldn't connect to the service. Great. I think we can connect now. It's very slow. That was also prevented me to be able to log into my tenant. But then I used one of the very great features of management portal, which I show you. But then we can go through that experience as well. I think we have a drop in connection, so it's a little bit slow. I'm looking forward to see your dinosaur option. I couldn't even open a search engine before. Interesting. You know, Christian, that's why I like to have hold of my data. Okay, we try to restart. And I give it another try. I log into the portal with a beautiful Office 365 single sign-on feature. It is actually good. Comparing what we experienced this morning, we thought we can't run the whole session. So hopefully we can log in and proceed. I wanted to demonstrate to you, but maybe I'm not sure. Maybe I can show that until we are logging into the portal. So basically, I had a problem connecting to the tenant, and then I was trying to copy the password that is produced for me, and probably it was not right. So I went to my tenant card and reset my password. One of the nice features that it's also very good to have. And then define the user-friendly password, not a generated password. It seems that we are logged in, but let me go through this experience. So my username, and you can see that I'm in the Valdo Fashion tenant that I just provisioned, and my password. Let me type it just to be sure. And you can see, actually, the splash screen that I uploaded is showing off. And also, the title of web client is showing my branding, Fabric and Fashion Apparel name. And then this is my tenant, you know, running on the cloud, provisioned in 2 minutes. We should ignore the network connections in NAV TechDays. Okay, let me get back to the portal.
Close it.
Yeah, maybe I need to restart.
Both of them.
Trying to connect again. So, what should I do now? Maybe we can proceed with some of the other concepts in the portal until network is back online. It's really slow. Are you connected
seems to
to
be running
management
from mine.
portal?
Yeah, so
Okay, great.
should we run it from mine?
Yeah, why not? Let's try from yours. You have a bit better adapted laptop.
Great. So we were talking about the manual backup, the
Yeah.
ability to take your data with you at any time. And you
Okay.
had that option on the tenant page, and we call
So-
it tenant data files.
Let's back up at least Valdo. Where is the Valdo's tenant? Okay, I go to my tenant card. And what should I do now? I can see I have an option here, tenant data files. And then I can go here and simply click on the backup. Yes, I want to make a backup of the system. Let's see what is happening. So my backups are getting created. Great. So this will take a while, right?
Right.
Let me get back to another tenant that there is already some backups to see how the end result will look like. Yeah, right. I have some backups here. So you can see that the backups have been created at different points in time. And then after the backup is created, then I have a download option. So I can download my backup on-prem and fetch my data. That is quite cool. By the way, can I upload these data files back again?
Yes, you can. And you can also check, once you have uploaded it, you can restore your tenant based on the data you uploaded.
OK, let me try. So can I get back to 2 days from now, maybe to the 17th, and select this, and just say restore? And let me see what is happening here. Wow, my tenant was running, and it is already changed to provisioning. So actually, this is my version of Time Machine.
Well,
it's much more reliable, because I am actually provisioning this tenant with a data file that I take the backup of from 2 days ago. I think that we should give up on the connection on my side. Okay. Great.
All right, what's next? All right, so we demonstrated how you can download the data file, and you can also upload it again and then start running on that. And that is actually quite useful in many scenarios. For example, imagine you have a customer already on-prem, and you want to bring them into the cloud. Well, you can take that data and bring it into the cloud like this. Another scenario is you want to download your data and do some advanced troubleshooting on it, for example, fix some data corruption, and then upload it again once it's fixed. And finally, in case you don't like our service after a while, this allows you to easily take your data with you and find somebody else to operate it. So it's quite a useful feature.
Okay, we took a pause because of the network problems we had. But I want to say hi again, Christian.
Hello, Aida. I can't believe it's already been a month. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, I had a very exciting 1 month. I have actually onboarded hundreds of customers, and everything was going very, very fine until yesterday. They started calling me and telling me that the service is really, really slow. And I felt kind of helpless. What can I do in this case?
Well, you can actually go to the service and see for yourself how it's doing. If you go to the service,
let me go to the service and see.
We call it service utilization.
Great. Let me go to my service and look at service utilization. It probably will take a while. At least as far as it is responsive, we are happy. Yeah, very interesting information is communicated to you now. It will take longer than usual. We got it already. So what I'm going to see in this service utilization, by the way, now that I'm just waiting for it. Tell me.
We collect performance data from all our VMs all the time. And that allows us to show graphs that you will be able to see. So with those graphs, you can see how your service is doing right now, whether it's running hot or not. And you can see how it's been doing over time. For example, what is the rhythm in your load? When do you have peak loads? Do you need to add more capacity?
It has never take longer than this usual. Amazing. You think we are disconnected totally, or there's some hope yet? So, actually, let's proceed. At least you can address my problem. Oh, fantastic. Finally. Great. So let me see what I have. So actually, my customers were not nagging. Oh, I can see here. They said the problem started yesterday, right? So let me get back 24 hours. And actually, they were right. My service was quite loaded by that time. Great. These are great options that I have. And I can see that I can get back in 1 hour, we go 24 hours, up to 7 days, and I can see the CPU and memory and all that. Great information. It's nice because now I know my customers are not nagging. And there is a real problem. But what can I do about it?
Well, it looks like you need to add some more capacity to your service. You can do that on the service card.
Okay, let me do that. So right now, how many scale units I'm running on? I'm running on 2 scale units. Probably I need to add 1 more, right? So I can go to the scale action and set the target to 3. It is predefined. It always add 1. Oh, by the way, I can see something here. Auto-scaling. What is all that about?
Well, let me get back to the auto-scaling feature in a little bit. But I would like to first explain what scaling actually means. Do you want to start it?
Yeah, let me start. Yes, I really want to scale up. They are really calling me. And then I can see that the scaling state has been changed to scaling to 3.
Right. So let me explain on...
This will take a while,
This will
right?
take a while. Let me explain what happens on the back end now. So here's the picture from before. We have an Azure VM with NAV installed on it, but now we have 100 tenant databases. And this is too much for this VM, so we need to add more capacity. And now I need to explain or extend the picture a little bit, because the Azure VM lives inside an Azure cloud service. And when your users connect to the service, they actually hit a load balancer that comes as part of the cloud service. And the load balancer forwards the request to the VM. And with this information, you can probably guess how we scale.
Yeah. So actually, this is a quite amazing feature, because I don't want they call me and inform me that something is going wrong, you know, or the service is slow. I don't want also to sit down there and always look at that nice graphs. They are nice, but I have, much more urgent business to take care of. So I think that's quite interesting.
Soon your service will have 3. In this case, I have illustrated 2 VMs, and the load balancer in front distributes the load between these 2. And we can add as many as we want. An interesting observation here is actually that the VMs are 100% identical. And this is essential because it allows us to add VMs and remove VMs pretty easily. And then, back to your question about autoscaling, how does it actually work? So the autoscaling does this for us if you enable it. So it detects that we need to add more VMs and does it, and when we need to remove VMs. And if you recall, the performance data we gather for the VMs that we use to show the nice graphs is what is used by the autoscaler as well. So basically, there's an algorithm that says if the CPU or memory is above a certain limit, then add a VM, and vice versa, if it drops below a certain value, then remove a VM. And the end result is you will always have the right capacity. You will not be called by your customers because there's too little capacity, and you will not pay for capacity that you don't need.
Great. So let's get back to management portal because I have some other things as well. So during the last month, I received a lot of feedback. I extend my solution. I add some hot fixes. And the features I have added, they are a little bit tricky. So I don't want to actually roll out these features to all my customers. I would not just send it to selected few. For example, I love Waldo to provide feedback. He normally has a lot of constructive feedback. He should promise me to don't blog about them just yet. So for that, maybe we go to the management portal.
Is yours working now?
No, it's not working.
Okay.
It's extremely slow. Okay, what I have already done, let's go to the list of application services. What I have already done, I have provisioned a new service. First, I have created a new version of my application, upload it as a version, as you see, and then I have provisioned a new service, the feedback service, based on this new application. And you can see that my original application, the version number was CU1, and this is now CU2. So what I want to do, I want to go to my original, the list of tenants of my original application service. Let me go to the list of tenants. And then make a copy. I need to make a copy because I don't want to disrupt anything. I want to make a copy of one of my tenants, and I will do that. So I have already made a copy, and I use this great copy feature. Okay, I need to select the active tenant, and then click on copy. When I'm doing that, I create a copy of Waldo's tenant. Yes, I would like to copy this. It will take a while until it kicks it up, and then the copy will be created. And all I want to do here is I want to move this copy. Yes, we hit this again, fine. I want to move this copy to the feedback service. And actually, I have this feature. I have the move feature here in the management portal that I can move it from one service, my tenant, from one service to other. And I have used it quite a while. But I was just thinking, when I'm moving stuff, do I also perform upgrade?
Yes, you do. Do you want me to explain?
Yes, you better explain because we are not going anywhere with this network.
So what we didn't get to was this page where you can take a tenant and move it from one service to another. And the other service is typically running a newer version of your application. Maybe it has bug fixes, maybe it has other features. So to illustrate what happens on the back end, I've shown this. So we have one application service. I've abstracted it a little bit away, but you know it contains VMs. And it is running application 1, your old application, and that one has the Waldo fashion tenant attached. So what you have to do is then create a second application service running your new application. And this application can have your upgrade logic as well. When you then move a tenant from one service to another, we do the following. First, we dismount the tenant from the old service. Then we create a copy of the database. And then we mount it on the new service. Now we need to do a few things. We need to run schema sync, your upgrade logic, and company initialization, which we then do. And once we've done that, your service is, your tenant is fully functioning again on the new service. And your users will probably not even have noticed this little downtime because it takes a couple of minutes, maybe 2 minutes. And the URLs they have to connect to the web client stay unchanged.
Great. But you were mentioning about moving. You know, I think me and all the people in this room, we have a lot of experience with upgrade, and we don't like it as much. So what if something goes wrong during the upgrade process?
Yes. So you saw we started by creating a copy of the database. And we do that exactly so we will always be able to return to the original. So if anything goes wrong, for example, a code unit that fails, we will simply restore, we will simply go back to the old database and mount it on the old service, and then it's like nothing ever changed.
So basically, in the beginning, you are actually moving the copy. And if it is going fine, then it is going fine. If it is not, then you mount back the original database. That's quite smart. I feel very safe about that. Great. Let's get back to the service and see if we have any chance to show some of these beautiful features to the audience. No, no chance. Maybe we can start a new session. We were actually using our phone hotspot. It was not a very good experience this morning, but it was definitely better than this. Shall we try the hotspot? Honestly, we were fine with that. So a message to Luke. If you want cloud stuff to be demonstrated, we really need a nice network. Just a normal, nice, fully fledged network. I want to prove to you we can run management portal from a hotspot. That's good.
Okay, let's try now.
Yes, this is the power of management portal. That's great. Not really. I was too fast excited. Sorry.
Maybe we jump to web services.
Can you guys help us? We can jump to the web services, actually.
So
yeah, that's fine.
So we've shown you a lot of things. And everything you can do in the management portal when it works, you can actually also do via web service. And this allows you to automate all of the things. And I would like to demonstrate how it works. So I have prepared a little script in PowerShell. But as you know, any language can connect to web services. I'm just using PowerShell here because it's nice and simple. And I'm connecting to my management portal. First, I'll create a set of credentials so I can actually get into the management portal. Then I will create web service proxies for some of the web services. So you can see that the domain name here, it is pointing to the real management portal, and we would like to connect to the application service, web services, application tenant, application data file. So let me create those 3 proxies. So when we have created the proxies are simply some helper objects that live in PowerShell now. That makes it really easy to talk to. Okay, it's also not working.
Yeah, because the connection is not there. Do you want to try this?
Let me try one more time. Good. So now I've created these helper objects pointing to the web services of the management portal. So let's see if we can see how many services we have with these few lines. So we have these services which you might recognize from the portal, and I won't push my luck on the tenants, but let's get our favorite tenant, which was called Waldo Fashion. And so I'm creating a little filter here and say I want all the tenants that have that name, which is only one. Yep, it found it. Let's look at what data files we have for this tenant. So you see we have one database file which was created like 20 minutes ago and still being created. And let's create a new one. And it returns an operation that I can then use to query for the status of the operation, whether it's finished or not. But let's list what tenant files we now have. And you see we have now 2. So basically you get the idea. You can automate all of the things that you can do in the portal with web services. And we use that at Microsoft for things like automated tests, but I'm sure there are many other usages of that.
Yeah, I am just thinking about the first script I'm going to write. It would be, I'm going to create a script that creates and downloads all the tenant data files. Great. So there is also some other capabilities of management service. Can we try one more time? Push of luck. And if you don't, then we...
No.
Now I learned to don't get excited.
No, let's skip that part.
Yeah.
We can talk about it.
Yeah, we can talk about it, because I was also wondering, what would be my troubleshooting experience in the cloud? How much, because you get away a lot of, abstract away a lot of stuff from us.
Yes. So you can actually troubleshoot much in the same way as you normally do. For example, you can connect a debugger to a tenant.
And actually, that was a very simple experience. I simply go to my tenant code, you can imagine now, and I have a debug button. And then it has also some great options. For example, I can download my customer user configuration of my Windows client that locally installed on my machine on the fly, so my client is connecting to the right tenant, and then I can see the list of sessions, and as a result, I log into the debugger, and then I can debug exactly the same way I used to do.
Yes, and some of the other things you can do is run objects, so you can run a table and see all the fields and make simple fixes to your data. And you can look at how much load you have on your databases, basically get a nice graph of the load over time of your database.
And I have tried that experience as well. It's also very simple. You just click on access to the objects, and then you go through the same experience, and basically you need actually to specify your tenant ID and your type of object that you are referring to, and then you will get into it. So, some other stuff. So actually, let me recap what has been my experience. So I developed my solution on-prem, and then I upload my components, my IP, my business logic, my tenant data, and my custom help into the cloud, and basically there use those components to build my service and onboard my customers. So if you look at it, this is a runtime environment on the cloud. And actually, I was thinking about something else. Maybe, okay? Because it is far more than that. We need to also have this in mind, that this service is hosted and managed by Microsoft. There is a fully fledged ops team that's managing the service 24 hours. And we have 24/7 uptime for the service. Is that right? That is what I have heard. But I have some other questions as well about this, because I know you guys have onboarded many, many customers. Now there is close to 100 customers are running live on this service, and they never experienced what we experienced today. So this should cost something as well, right?
Right.
And then what about licenses?
So you are asking business questions, and I'm just an engineer, a technical guy at this technical conference, so I'm not the right person to answer that. But fortunately, we have a guy in the audience which knows all about that, and it's Kurt, which you already know, probably. So, but what we did cover today was two things. First of all, we talked about what the NAV managed service for partners can actually do. And second, we talked about how we implemented it. And I'd like to say that Aida and I and the NAV service team in Copenhagen have been on an extraordinary journey over the last year to produce this service. We are proud of it. We hope you like it too. And no matter if you think it's relevant for you or not, we hope you like this session and maybe learned a thing or two as well. Thank you. So we have a little bit of time for questions, and there are also some t-shirts for the good questions. Yeah, go ahead.
I have some of them here.
Is there a maximum size for the SQL database?
So by default, you
It's a
can have
very good
up to 250 gigabytes in such a database. So that should be plenty for most of you, I guess. Sorry. The question was whether there is a maximum size for the databases. And the maximum size is 250 gigabytes. That is a limit set by Azure SQL. Let's take some. You in the. Oh.
You showed us how to upscale that speed. Can you also scale it back down?
Yeah, absolutely. You can actually scale down. You can scale up and down all the time. And if you have the auto-scaling feature, then that will happen for you.
I'm wondering how you are maintaining the URLs to the web client when you switch to a new version of the application.
Where the application is.
Because you're going to a new version of the application,
Yes.
we still keep the same URLs.
Yeah, absolutely.
So-
How's that done?
The first thing we did was upload our backpack files. They are stored in a central place. And they're not stored in West Europe or North Europe anywhere, because it's just a file share in a sense. But when we need to use them, when you want to use them in a service, you say West Europe, then we copy them and create a database in West Europe based on them.
How do you add add-ons to the tenants?
So add-ons, we allow you to upload an application database. And a new feature, well, it's not really new. Well, it was extended a little bit in NAV 2016, is that you can put your add-ons into the application database. So it's as simple as that. You have to package it in a zip file, put it into your application database, and it comes up to the service with the application. And when they are needed, they will be unpacked on either the server or the client. Yeah.
Should we
Do you
give
wanna-
some
yeah, go ahead,
t-shirts,
yeah.
actually?
Okay. Hi. Picture creating a multi-tenant environment in a third-party cloud or in a third-party data center. Is it basically possible that you connect with the management portal if this data center runs the Azure stack?
Azure has some data centers that more or less have the same capabilities, Azure SQL and compute and all that. But Microsoft also releases an Azure stack that allows you, as anybody, to take that code with you and stand up your own data center. And the interfaces are the same, but we don't allow you to use those in this portal.
Okay.
Because we have configured it to talk to the public cloud.
Okay, I was just hoping. Sorry.
Can you pass this to Seifi?
I have a question about the support of the add-ins, like JavaScript add-in, also client add-ins or DLLs which are running on the server. Which ones are supported here?
So, which ones are support? So, we operate platform as a service here. So we own the VM, the NAV platform, and other components like that. So if there's any problem with that, it's our problem, right? If you upload your AL code or any add-ins, and there's a problem with those, it's your problem. So I'm not sure I've answered. You are probably thinking about what is, if you can rely on there being some things on the VM, whether there can be mismatches or anything like that.
No, I meant like these custom add-ins we developed in JavaScript.
Yeah, they are supported. You just upload them with your application database. So the JavaScript add-ins, let me repeat that. The JavaScript add-in controls, you upload them in your application database and they will be streamed out to the web client or the Windows client.
And this feature was introduced actually in 2013 and 2013 R2 and partially in 2016 as well.
You mentioned the customer job that screwed up data and stuff. I wanted to know if there is anything about NAS and configuration of it in this portal.
Yeah. So we simply enable the NAS for you, and we run code unit, I believe 450, isn't it, that runs a job queue. So that's a decision we've made, and then you can use the job queue as it is, or you can take over if you want. But it's running.
Yeah, so there was a load balancing component in the stack there. I was just wondering whether it would be possible to use that without the managed services, like if you have your own Azure implementation and stuff, and you want to just use the load balancer in addition to deployment.
So the load balancer is a part of the Azure cloud service. If you've ever used the Azure Management Portal, you know you have to create endpoints which are visible from the outside, right? So when your end customers connect, they hit the endpoints, which they are called. But then on the endpoint, you can say that this is actually forwarding the requests to multiple other places, for example, 2 different VMs. So it's a part of the Azure cloud service.
Any more questions?
Yeah, there's one more over there.
But what about custom developed .NET add-ins? These are separate DLLs.
Yes, and you can zip them together and put them into your application database. So they will be moved to the cloud together with the rest of the database.
Okay,
and
cool, thanks.
On
that
demand,
will
they
be
will
part
be
of the backpack file actually that you upload.
There's another question higher up.
My question is, you manage the performance of the NAV tier, but how do we manage the SQL performance problematics?
So we don't give you access to the SQL database, as you probably guessed, right? So you are somewhat restricted in what you can do. But to compensate for that, we show you a lot of the things inside the management portal. So you can see, which we didn't get to, unfortunately, graphs of the load on your system. You can see how much transaction I/O is being used, how the memory is being used, and a lot of other things. There are also other features, for example, missing indexes that it will suggest to you that you add some new indexes, which we all know can have a dramatic impact on your performance.
And also your SQL query statistics. So actually you can see that which one of them are using the system the more, and then you can see there is some adjustment that you need to do.
Okay, thank you.
You can also actually get access to the event log of the database server that is running the tenants and supervise that as well.
Right, there's a question down here.
can you upload any database, or does it have to be certified for MS for Dynamics?
Business question. Technically, it's any database, but I don't know if we have any requirements about certification.
Anybody wants to answer?
Any more questions? There's one over there, actually.
You can come and ask Kurt afterwards if you want to know.
Hi, could you talk some more about the method for setting up tenant users and authentication options?
Yes, so those are two different things, right? So because the authentication type impacts how we install NAV. It means you have to set certain configuration values on the NST and on the web client. And in case you use Office 365 authentication, we have to create AAD objects as well and link them together. So that's how this decision of authentication has an impact. When it comes to users, so creation of can you what were we saying? Were you thinking about how we actually create the users, or how we choose whether they should use one or the other authentication type, or anything? When in the portal you can create the users, and based on the knowledge of we know whether this tenant is created on an application service that uses one or the other authentication type. So when you create the users, we guide you a little bit by hiding the password field and the authentication email field depending on what authentication type. But after that point, when we create the users, what we do technically is we do remote PowerShell into one of the VMs and run the commandlets for creating new users, which you're probably used to. No. But you can use any AAD account you like, but we are running in the cloud. And if you have an Active Directory already, it's quite easy to federate that or synchronize that with an Azure Active Directory.
You had the possibility to select the self-signed certificate, but what if can we also use our own root certificates or our own certificates, and do we then need to share our private key with you? We recommend, as Aida explained, that you upload your own SSL certificate if you are going into production with this, right? Otherwise, your customers will see a warning dialog whenever they connect, which is not nice. And in order for us to be able to install those certificates, we do need your private key, which we can talk about how we store that, and we encrypt it, and we use Azure Key Vault. That's a long story too, but we're following pretty strict guidelines on how.
And we also have the key rotation on Azure Key Vault, so it's very hard to be compromised, actually. Automatic key rotation every time we are spinning off a new service and a new deployment.
All right, if there's no more questions, there's one more. And it's lunchtime, so I can understand if you want to get out of here.
You already mentioned the add-ons that can be deployed to the tenants, but what about the extensions?
Yes, so I think we also covered it briefly. So if your application contains extensions, then on the tenant, on the individual tenant, you can choose to have them installed or not. Right, so you go to the tenant, you click Manage Extensions, and then you see the list of the extensions that are in the application, together with a check mark whether you have installed them on your tenant already. And then you can change it and press the button, and we'll do the install or uninstall. So it's quite simple. All right, time is up. Thank you very much for coming. Enjoy the rest of the conference.